yeah, that was so good. That was so good. That
David Allen, right? So,
oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
yeah, he said something similar. Yeah, I mean it's fucking gruesome. I mean, yeah, this is Jesus on the cross. That's an instrument of torture. That's the standard instrument of Roman torture and execution for insurrection. So basically, if you're in Texas, would you make your kids worship a gurney and a hypodermic syringe? Because that's the state. That's the equivalent state. I mean, it's cultural appropriation to use the crucifix, because that's basically Judaic instrument of state torture. Yeah, but if you're in Texas, you should use the gurney and lethal syringe. Basically, that should be what you hold up to people. Yeah, and in Alabama, the gas chamber. You should say, the sacred gas chambers and stuff like that.
Put them up in churches.
And and if you're Muslim, the stone, just the stone. This is your instrument of state torture. You should instead of a cross, have a stone.
Sophie, in one of your comments where you equated, where you said that trauma leads to psychopathy, and I made the comment that we're all unavoidably traumatized by being brought up into this kind of society. I'm just, I mean, it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing that we've got this society that sort of idolizes ego-mindedness, and that leads to psychopathy. I'm just trying to develop a point here. I'm not sure if I can do it. That a lot of what we call trauma is needless because we've developed ego too far. And so we're experiencing a little bit like Sam Bachman said in his thing about the collective narcissistic injury that COVID-19 has caused. And so we're in this situation where we experience more trauma because we're more egotistically inclined. And so there's this kind of this feedback going on all the time. This amplification of the effect of trauma. So there's that. Go on, sorry. You want to say that?
I would make a difference between the traumatism and the trauma. Like the traumatism is the event.
Yeah.
COVID, whatever, a mother abandoning you, a father beating you up, and the trauma is the kind of trace that's left in you, in your brain, basically.
I see what you mean.
And,
yeah.
You have to differentiate the two things, because that's when you can attain a kind of help, healing, and yeah. So I would. There's two different things. You see, a lot of people call trauma everything. It's just to tidy up there. Just
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I would, as a point of order on this, I would point out that that thing that you said about trauma being related to ego is very important. So what a lot of people. So let me give you this example. PTSD is probably only 3 decades old. So you have to say, well, why didn't ancient Greek soldiers or Roman soldiers, they saw more bloody shit on the battlefield than anybody in, say, Iraq.
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to get to.
From Iraq, and they have PTSD. And then, guys come back from the Peloponnesian Wars and they just go to the Platonic Academy and do great philosophy. And I say, why don't those guys have PTSD? Well, it relates to the thing that's it's also related in a subtle way to capitalism and what I was saying earlier about this category that you either productive personality or an unproductive. So what a lot of the guys who are coming back from Iraq are doing is the system is getting more and more mechanized. As it gets more and more psychopathic, it gets more and more subject to chronos, to control, to micromanagement, to the system of obedience. Now, not everybody can do that. Schizophrenics are very, very bad at that. They can't keep a clock. They have about 80% to 90% unemployment. Almost the definition of a schizophrenic now in psychiatry is you can't hold down a job. And so what these guys are doing is they're going off to Iraq. They come back, and they've seen too much. So if you talk to these guys, they're not broken in the sense like, oh, I have PTSD, I'm a victim, and so a lot of these guys are dealing it. So a lot of them are actually shooting people. What they're doing is they're getting supernatural stimuli. So they're getting too much theater and too much gore, and a lot of them they're delivering it. Make no mistake, they're not PTSD guys are not, little
They're
pebbles.
not angels.
They're no angels, yeah. So they come back, and what they find is that they can't integrate back into society. Now they kind of schizophrenic. They because they're so hyper, they've been attuned. Life is just too damn boring in an office for them, and so they have severe difficulties fitting in. Now, because our society only says you have two flavors, productive or unproductive, if you're unproductive, you need an excuse. So PTSD is often an excuse for why they can't cope in our society. And nobody says, well, our society's got very narrow. We don't take any oddballs anymore. I mean, even if you go back when I started in the 70s in computing, it was full of oddballs and interesting personalities, and it was a fascinating place. Now I find those guys afloat, but they're being slowly weeded out of the system by guys like Bezos, who just want obedient slaves and very, very narrow criteria. They just basically want good obedient pets. They want lapdogs. And the less creative, the better. So these guys are finding an excuse for why they can't fit into our society, and then psychiatrists say, what's the definition of sanity? And their definition is, well, are you a productive member of society? Well, that's pure capitalism. In the old days, you were just a member of society. You didn't have to be qualified by what do you produce. And so a lot of them are scapegoating, and that's what the trauma is what's my excuse for not fitting into the capitalist model. And then you can look at DSM, they've got, fucking mega amount of excuses. They've got thousands of excuses. Each one of them has a billing code, and then you can basically feed the farmer, and that's it closes the circle, and then you've got a mental disorder called PTSD. And if you were in ancient Greece, you would be, anything you saw on the battlefield, you might make you squiffy, but it might make you into, a great philosopher. So.
If I can say two other things, I've seen that with people that I know who have, for one reason or other, not really struggled with their lives, and they eventually realized that they had to assume some kind of socially acceptable illness in order to be pigeonholed, and therefore then get the government benefit. But from then on, they were, autistic or schizophrenic or whatever they were diagnosed as. They had to take that on as their identity. I think the tragedy of it was that they really believed in it. They came to really believe that was who they are.
It's required. It's part of the learned helplessness and slave narrative. So if you're a defective slave, they say, the DSM is basically no different from the Inquisition's Ars Goetia. It's just a list of demons. And then they say, okay, well, you've got this demon. Well, the person takes it on because they say, like, now I've got the demon that excuses my behavior. I've got a strategy for handling it, and that's basically just, using big pharma to basically sedate me so I don't have the former level of Iraq-style, basically stimuli.
That's another failure of mental health practitioners in general, like with all these trauma situations. It's well obvious for the last 20 or 30 years that it's a physical problem, and that it can be healed with physical means, and that it's not something that is amenable to psychotherapy, blah blah talk, etc. It's in the body. it's in the limbic system, it's mostly in the amygdala. There's all sorts of physical treatments that our ancestors knew very well about a long time ago, where they could heal people who had terrible shocks and traumatism with various dances and all sorts of practices. It's been proven by neuroscience that most of those people who have seen horrible things or have been repeatedly traumatized like we are in society, what I call CPTSD, that was described by Judith Herman about 20 or 30 years ago. It's in the body, and it's bodily methods that can help. Now, it's been put into the realm of the psychiatrists and their DSM and all this thing, and they've put these people through talk therapies so that they re-traumatize them because they have to talk about what happened to them again and again. The ancient Greeks, who had a mad experience in a battle, they probably, when they came back home, went completely lula. They probably did in a certain way. They probably went to see prostitutes, got drunk, climbed mountains, roared, did whatever they could to get it out of their system, and maybe went to hot baths, maybe had massage, maybe did all the things that you need to do that ancient knowledge knew how to do to get your body okay.
Release it from the body.
We started to forget all these things. The body, there's a famous book called the body, I don't know, can't remember the name now, it's just coming back to me, but it's all in there, it's all stored in there. It's organic. Do you know what I mean? It's in the organs, it's in our path of neurotransmitters that are constantly re-experiencing the initial traumatism, and that can be worked on a lot of people. It's quite new now. We are working on this. So people who identify, I mean, I'm sorry to hear that actually somebody who can manage to get out of the system and be on benefit, and he should be laughing his head off, should be saying, great, I'm out of it, and they can just, but if they start identifying with the thing, that's the problem.
That's the problem. That was the conversation I was having with one of the people I know. Because he'd come to identify with it. And I said, man, do you realize that you're doing better than all these fucking millionaires with their bloody yachts? And you're completely free. You're getting your money for free, your housing for free. There's no demands being made on you at all. You're 100% at liberty. And I mean, this was a person who had creative abilities, and I said, how many people have got all day, every day, to just go for what they really love doing?
Absolutely.
I've got to say something here.
Yeah.
This stuff is going away, right? So it's very important for people that are listening to this that support. So this story is about to change.
Oh yeah.
We are not going for socialism. We're not going for a friendly environment. We're heading now for the managed extinction nightmare.
Yeah,
Even if you get you're worse off with a socialist government. So if you're a socialist and you think everything's going to be sorted out because now we have socialism and the state takes care of you, the states are going bust. We're heading for collapse. All those guys that got their little narrative that way and they got onto a gravy train because social gravy train, that is going away. You're in deep shit because the number of people now that are going to be traumatized are going to be coming in the billions.
Yeah.
And there's going to be no state help. So it's very important for people that understand this, like people, on ExxonMed and stuff like that, is saying this is a very important time because the old narrative now is gone. Now you're going to get PTSD like nothing, like you won't believe, and there's going to be no state support. But still, the state rules. The state rules are that you've got to be productive, or otherwise you're out of the system. And productive increasingly means, are you a state goon? Are you basically part of the security forces? Is basically their last vestige of productive people. So we're heading into that. One more thing to say. If increasingly there are no more green jobs, then the Green New Deal is complete fraud. There are no green jobs because the economy is shrinking. Any jobs that there are, AI is going to take them. And so basically the lump of labor fallacy is no longer fallacy. Any economist worth their salt will admit it now. So we're heading into an interim of a shrinking job pool where you will have more and more reasons to call yourself an unproductive person. What they don't want you to find, and psychiatrists and clinical psychologists, they're complicit in this, because they will support, they're about to get stuck, because they're going to be, what they've done traditionally is say, well, you're not an unproductive personality type now. So therefore, we put you on this little gravy train, and you're sidelined. You no longer have to go to the workforce. Now they're going to be stuck, because if they do that, the concentration camp doesn't have any use for you. Big pharma, you won't be able to afford anymore. It's a shrinking pool for rich people. Healthcare and stuff like that is a thing of the past. So people have to realize you're about to go into severe traumas that you would never believe. And two, there will be no support. And the old, basically, medics that would patch you up and send you into the front lines of capitalism will no longer be able to do their old scapegoat where they send you into a job. So you're in deep shit. If you're on the margins, or you have any idea that basically you might struggle in the workforce where they only employ 10% of the people, then you should be fucking worried now. Now, here's the major thing you need to do.
Yeah, you're right to say that.
So now here's the major thing you need to hear out of this. If this resonates with anybody that's listening to it, this is the major thing you need to hear. Psychiatrists and clinicians will not tell you the one surefire cure for PTSD. And that's what I told you right at the beginning, is you fight back. That's the forbidden cure you're not allowed to do. Because we're capitalists and you have to be productive, then you're not allowed to do this fight back. Because fight back is unproductive. Well, we're about to go fucking extinct. The civilization is collapsing. The most productive thing you could do is fight for your fucking life. And that's the cure. The coming cure for PTSD is to fight back. It's the cure that they don't want you to have. So reject the pills, reject all the help, fight. You just start small. You'll be amazed at the curative properties that just sabotaging the system does to you. You will go from feeling the most depressed little shit that isn't productive in society to feeling like a fucking god. And all it takes is just one act of sabotage. Just do it. Just try it. And you'll feel like $1 million. It is the cure that they don't want you to find.
100%. It's good. It feels good.
Feels fucking A.
Yeah.
That's better than hope. It's revenge.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Okay.
Get a slingshot. Slingshot revenge is the cheapest therapy and most effective you're ever going to have. Yeah, there you go.
Never without it.
I think that's a wonderful place to end. I wonder what all the guys at Eglin Air Force Base who tasked with actually watching this shit, they think of this. They're like, fuck, these bastards.
Yeah.
But that's another great thing is you can fight the system in open forum. They know that you're doing it, like we're doing now. They know that you're doing it, but we're not actually breaking the rules. So you can fight like this way too, right? I used to do this in school. I used to fight back by I used to drive them quite wild because I was a capable student. So we had a mark order, and then you'd be placed in the slot all the way from first all the way to last. The last guy got caned. Got caned 6 by the headmaster. So it was so the last guy was a poor shit, you know. But I would love fucking with him. Basically, one mark order I'd come top, the one I'd come second to last, so that they couldn't cane me. And then I'd come top, and then second, and they knew I was fucking with them. And it drove them nuts because they thought, well, if you can come first, why don't you always come first? And it was obvious, because I want to fuck with you. And it drove them nuts. And what drove them nuts most is that I was doing it in public. I was showing the other boys that you can fuck with these idiots and drive them nuts, and they can't do anything about it. Because see, if they caned me, then they were breaking their own rules. So they couldn't do that. So it pays to, again, it's like the jester. You can act as the role of the jester to the psychopath. and do it in a public forum like this. You don't have to get too wrapped up in, oh, there's surveillance everywhere. Yeah, play to the surveillance. Play to the guys in England that are watching this shit, right? The guys in the NSA, the AI that feeds these things up, that watches the keywords. Fuck with them. Fuck with them.
Well, I hope that someday somebody from Extinction Rebellion who's been lurking and looking at what we're saying and, you know, reading our posts on XRMed will join this conversation. I really hope that I see new faces coming and people who are starting to think differently about activism. I think, I hope so.
People are scared. People are genuinely scared because they've done such a good job of cowing us with surveillance. But you must, instead of putting on a broccoli suit and dancing in the street, you must learn to dance here in a place like this. You basically say, you know, we know the ACABs are out there. We know that basically the NSA watches this shit and basically has a lot of trolls out and stuff, and say, play to them. Basically, what you must try and do is recruit some cunt in the NSA. So the best coup you could possibly do is get one of these guys to watch, any guy that's assigned. This actually happened to Hitler. Hitler was actually an undercover stooge that was sent to monitor right-wing organizations in the push. He was a state agent that was sent to monitor the guys in the beer kellers. And he got into the politics so much that he found that he could actually speak. And that's how he learned to basically, that's how he got into politics. The state put him in. Imagine that. Imagine you got somebody in the NSA, some young bright spot, and you turned them with these conversations that they were listening to. If suddenly they went, fuck, I'm assigned to report these guys. And basically, how about this? How about I fuck the NSA? Yeah. How about I fuck the NSA? And you're like, whoa. Now there was a guy's done it. Go and have a look at the Shadow Brokers. Say no more. Anyway, anyway, it's a different way to think about this. Don't let them cow you with surveillance and that. It's like, assume you surveilled, now go to town. Well, anyway, this has been good.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very, very
Thanks,
much.
you. Yep. Okay.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good. Then maybe next Sunday, and hopefully there are a lot of people lurking out there. Hopefully that some will step forward.
Yeah, I hope so. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Okay. Right.
Bye.